Welcome to Her Remarkable History. Remember, to support our channel, please subscribe. The forgotten mistreated wife of the Merry Monarch. Charles II is remembered today in history as a king who lived a very hedonistic lifestyle. He also was a king who was invited onto the throne during the restoration of the monarchy, and he sought to punish those men who signed the death warrant and execution notice of his father, Charles I. He ordered some people, such as Oliver Cromwell, to be dug up from Westminster Abbey, and his remains were then paraded throughout London before they were posthumously executed. But his title as the Merry Monarch derives from the fact he was a king who loved women and had many mistresses, and he also partied heavily and drank lots. But despite having a number of mistresses, and it's believed 12 illegitimate children, he did have a wife who was married to him for a number of decades. Catherine of Braganza, today, is remembered as the forgotten wife of Charles II, and she was mistreated by her husband. But what is her story? Catherine was born on the 25th of November 1638 in Portugal, and she was the daughter of the King of Portugal, John IV. Her father was proclaimed king on the 1st of December 1640, and her father's position now as a powerful European monarch saw Catherine as a daughter who could be used to later secure an alliance with a powerful European nation. Portugal was building up a large, widespread colonial empire, and Catherine was proposed as a bride for John of Austria, Louis XIV of France, and Charles II of England. But Charles II was chosen. Marriage negotiations later took place. Her mother was considered a power behind the throne, Queen Louisa, and she was a devoted mother, and she kept a close eye on Catherine's education. But she was given a rather sheltered upbringing. However, the negotiations for the marriage of Charles II and Catherine of Braganza took place following the restoration of the monarchy in England. Many Spanish people opposed the marriage, but it was signed off on the 23rd of June 1661. The negotiations included instruction for the army, and Catherine came to England around the 13th of May 1662, but she was not visited by her husband-to-be Charles until a week later. The couple married at Portsmouth in a Catholic secret ceremony, but also a public Anglican service. But then, on the 30th September 1662, the couple came to London and were part of a huge procession, and musicians and minstrels played their way into the city, and many played the Portuguese bagpipes, the Queen's favourite instrument. They processed as the royal couple throughout the city, over a large bridge which had also been especially built. They were greeted by the Queen Mother at their palace, Charles's mother, and then fireworks marked the evening celebrations. Catherine, despite having a secluded upbringing, did have a number of good queen-like qualities. Henrietta Maria, her mother-in-law, and the wife of the executed Charles I, stated, "She is the best creature in the world, from whom I have so much affection. I have the joy to see the king love her extremely. She is a saint." However, despite her charm and beauty, she was never enough for her husband. It's not really known what Catherine thought of her husband, but Charles II's lifestyle was a huge departure from the life in the convent that she was accustomed to and used to. Charles, despite being married, could not keep himself away from his mistresses, and within a few weeks of coming to England, she knew that she was the wife of an adulterous king who would play away with many women. She was not used to this frivolous lifestyle that her husband had, and it's considered that she was a rather quiet woman who at times did not utter her frustrations towards her husband's life. She became pregnant at least 3 times and miscarried these, but her husband did comfort her. During one bout of severe illness, Catherine was delusional and believed she had given birth, but Charles II did lie to her and said she had given birth to 2 sons and a daughter. But Charles continued to see his mistresses, and despite treating his wife with respect at court and insisting that she be treated like a queen, he had a large number of illegitimate children with his mistresses. He made many of them pregnant and allegedly had 12 children, but he did not have a legitimate heir from his marriage with Catherine. Following her miscarriages, some royal advisers told the king to seek a divorce and marry a new Protestant wife who was considered futile. But Charles refused to do this, and he dismissed the idea of divorcing her. Catherine was faithful to her husband, despite him not being so faithful and loyal. But because she was a Catholic, she was not the most popular monarch England has ever seen. Her religion prevented her being crowned a queen, and she faced difficulties with language barriers. But her loyalty to the king did change the public's perception of her. She did become a little bit more fun, as at court she would play cards and also play on Sundays, which shocked Protestants. She also enjoyed dancing and taking part in masques. She loved the countryside and would fish and partake in archery sessions. She seemed to be liberated from her days at the convent, and she also allegedly showed off her pretty near legs and ankles. And she wore shorter dresses as time went on. She even at one point, in 1670, attended a country fair in disguise, but was quickly discovered by the crowd who wanted to see her. She was not involved in English politics, but was active in what was happening back home in Portugal. Charles II had a royal yacht built for her, and Catherine would travel up the Thames on it, and also return to Portugal on it. But there was a shocking moment at court, when Barbara Palmer, the king's official mistress, was presented to her. Charles insisted on making his mistress Catherine's lady of the bedchamber, and following this she was furious. Catherine stopped spending time with the king, and she declared she would return to Portugal rather than accept Palmer as the lady of her bedchamber. Charles then dismissed all of her Portuguese ladies and courtiers, and she stopped resisting when this happened, but this broke Queen Catherine. She was the target of anti-Catholic sentiment and was seen as dangerous by some Protestants. She was a target of Protestant extremists, and there was a plot against her, but the animosity towards her brought Charles and Catherine closer. He visited her quarters more often. But then, in 1685, Charles was ill and he was dying. He asked for Catherine, but she sent a message asking that her presence at his deathbed be excused. Following the king's death, she remained in England and lived in Somerset House throughout the reign and deposition of James II, her brother-in-law. She remained in England and stayed here due to a lawsuit she had against her former Lord Chamberlain, and she was very money-motivated. After the Glorious Revolution, when William III and Mary II came onto the throne, she had a good position with them, but this got worse over debates about religion. She was forced out and returned to Portugal in 1692, and it's alleged that she secretly married Louis de Duras, the second Earl of Feversham, but on the 31st of December 1705, she died at Benposta Palace in Lisbon. Her legacy is an interesting one. It's believed that it was her that may have brought tea drinking to England, and she also brought other items, such as porcelain and cotton, to popularity. But ultimately, her life was very sad and rather tragic. She could not produce a legitimate heir to the throne, and she lived almost in the shadows when Charles II would visit his many mistresses. She was a woman cast aside by the king as he preferred the company and bed of other women. But despite being unable to produce a son or daughter to rule next, the king did have a number of illegitimate children. This must have plagued and hurt Catherine, and must have been heartbreaking for her to live with. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.